Welcome to Cooking with Bobbi Jo. This afternoon we're making shrimp and sausage cornbread dressing. So let's get started. So this is how I'm making the cornbread today. I start off with putting a scoop of bacon grease in my cast iron skillet. Place that in the oven on 425 degrees and let it heat up while I get my cornbread batter ready. I started with making a large skillet of cornbread. There are many different ways to make cornbread, and if you have a favorite, then go with that. You can make the cornbread a day ahead of time to speed up the process. In a mixing bowl, I combine 1 cup of yellow cornmeal, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt. I mix all of that together. I then decided I'm going to add in a teaspoon of chili powder. Mix all that together. Add in 1 cup of milk, 1 egg, 1/4 cup of oil, and mix all that together until it's fairly smooth. Then I add in 1 can of whole kernel corn drained. And I usually add jalapenos, but I'm leaving them out because I'm not going to be the only one eating this. Pull the skillet out of the oven and be careful because it will be hot. Then pour the batter in. As you can tell, the skillet is smoking. It will sizzle when you pour the batter in, and that'll start cooking the bottom of the cornbread, so you'll have that nice crispy crust on the bottom. Place in the oven and bake for 20 to 25 minutes or until a toothpick is inserted and it comes out clean. You can usually tell it's done by the top. I cooked mine just a tad too long and it started cracking. Cornbread usually cracks, but not this much. And then as soon as I take it out of the oven, I spread butter all over the cornbread. And then you let your cornbread cool. Although I had to try a slice, but I did share it with Steve, but there is nothing like hot buttered cornbread with that crispy crust on the bottom straight out of the oven. Good. So back to the recipe. Now you want to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. While the cornbread's cooling, I'm going to go ahead and get my shrimp ready, and you're going to need 1 pound of shrimp for this recipe. You can use whatever type of shrimp you want. I think the fresher the better. I'm also using an orange sweet bell pepper, a purple bell pepper, and this is from the last pepper harvest in my garden. And then I also have 1 Vidalia onion, and I'm going to slice all of these up. And now that the cornbread has cooled, I'm going to tear it into pieces and place it on a baking sheet and back in the oven. Now, I know this may sound crazy since we just baked it, but we want to get it drier because it will soak up all of the other ingredients and flavors in the recipe the drier the cornbread is. That's why you use dry bread for stuffings and dressings. So I'm going to place it back in the oven and we're going to bake that for 30 minutes. And you want about 7 to 8 cups of crumbled cornbread for this recipe. I'm going to be short a little because we ate a piece, but I like my dressing a little moist, so it'll be okay. While that's in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and get everything else ready. So I'm going to melt 1 tablespoon of butter in a skillet. I'm going to add in the onions and peppers and also 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. I'm going to saute that until the onions are soft. I'm also going to slice up the sausage. Now, this recipe calls for andouille sausage, and they did not have any in the grocery store. So I'm using these Johnsonville, New Orleans smoked sausage dogs, or they're also called brats. And I'm going to slice these up, and I'm using the entire pack. So I'm just getting a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to cut them up. Then I'm going to mix it all together, and then I'm going to add in the shrimp and mix all that together. I turn off the heat at this point. I do not want my shrimp to cook too much since it will be in the oven for quite a while. So I'm going to pour all of this into a mixing bowl. That way it doesn't continue to cook because the cast iron stays hot for a while even after the heat's turned off, and it'll continue cooking. Then in the same skillet, melt 1 stick of butter, or it's also a half a cup of butter. If you don't have sticks, it's a half a cup. And it's been 30 minutes and the cornbread is ready, and I usually let it cool down some, but I'm going to go ahead and pour it in the mixing bowl so we can go ahead and get this in the oven. At this point, you want to turn the oven up to 375 degrees so it'll be preheated for the dressing. Mix everything together and pour in the melted butter. Four cups of chicken broth. Two eggs that are already beaten. 1½ teaspoons of Old Bay seasoning, a half a tablespoon of garlic powder, and a half a tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And my recipe also calls for 1 teaspoon of salt, but when I make it again, I'm going to leave the salt out because I felt like it was just a tad too salty. It was delicious, but it was just a little too salty. Now, if you like things salty, leave it the way it is and put the 1 teaspoon of salt in it, but I'm taking that 1 teaspoon of salt out of the recipe. The base seasoning and the chicken broth have plenty of salt in it. So mix it all together, and then you want to pour it in a 9x13 dish and place it in the oven for 40 to 45 minutes. Remove from the oven, let it sit a few minutes, and then enjoy. This is my favorite dressing. It is so good. It definitely gets Bobbi Jo's drool-worthy stamp of approval. As always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned tomorrow for another Thanksgiving recipe or two, and have a blessed rest of your day. Bye for now.